Hello, the game has started. It's my opponent to go first. I've got quite a nice rack. I'm not seeing a 7, but it looks fairly bingo-y. I would have Philaces through an A. The F is the only non-bingo-y tile on my rack. But the rest of the rack, super bingo-y as a 6-letter set, so difficult to break this rack up. Now, are there any other bingos apart from through an I? Opponent does change, so I need to satisfy myself that there aren't any 7s here. And I don't think there are. So, do I play farce or just swap the F? 28 points for farce. I'm going with that. Farce for 28. Well, I'm not going with that. I'm going to go with fecal, slightly better rack leave, same score. Fecal for 28. Well, not great, very unbalanced, so that really hasn't worked out. If I'd changed, I would have had CARLES or AELRS on my rack. However, I do have one vowel and there are floating vowels. So I could play craved or carved for 24. Do I have anything which uses a ZA hook like the G, or precisely the G? No, because I then don't have anything to go under L or C. Not a great rack leave. The only alternative to this would be to play graved, keeping CS, but that involves a sacrifice of points. I'm going with this. Well, still non-bingo-y, but I do have the X. G doesn't go well with the X, so I may struggle to split up the duplicate G. I really need an O for Gox. Nowhere particularly good for the X on the board at the moment, so I may turn my attention to sorting out the Gs. Zell takes an S, but I don't think I can score enough in column 10 to justify playing it. Just looking in column 4 to see if I've got any FI plays which reach the double word square, and I'm not seeing one. Still no way of using Zag. I really would need an L, I think. IG is good, IGG. Not seeing anywhere for that. Not seeing anything through the C, so this board isn't really working for me. I guess I could play Sig in column 6. Very weak score and a poor rack leave, so I'm not a massive fan of that. Gel is good, so I could play over the top of Zell, but not scoring off the Z, and I can't really score very much in that spot. I think GEE is the best I can see. Now from a V, I would have Veggie. Not often you're looking for a floating V to be available, but that would help sort this rack out. Okay, I don't have any hooks for Bell apart from the S. What about Zag? Is that helped? No, Belly and Belli not good. Nowhere for Ig. Wow, this is such a tricky rack to deal with. I only trail by 8. I feel that it's definitely too good to change. Scarved is good. Well, I could play exec for 26. Wow, putting that X underneath this double word square. That doesn't feel great. I can play X's for 35, but then that opens up all of the front hooks. But 35 points, decent score. But G and X go so badly together. That's the real problem. But I think either of those plays better than Sig. Only 13 points. I think I will play exec for the smaller score. There's only 9 points difference in score, and the S is worth about 8. So on score and Rackley, these moves are similar. And if I play X's and Scarved, then there is definitely some negative value for me in providing access to column 1. So I am going with this. I was just thinking about playing X's through the C. 32 points. But that still retains both G's. I'm going with this. Well, that's not too bad, given what I kept. But is there a bingo here? I feel there could be an 8. I've got the ing ending and the ings ending. Possibly gainings through an N. No scoring tiles on this rack. I do lead. I'm not expecting that to last. Again, I would really need an L to hook bell. And look at this, all 3 of them in a diagonal, so there's only one L to come. So I certainly shouldn't be hanging on to a G in the hope of drawing that tile. Now, I do have caging in column 6, which sorts the rack out. Nice bingo for opponent. Torment takes an A. And, wow, I have an N for gainings. And that may not be good, but if it isn't, I have agonizing. Gainings is better if it's good, because I'm not putting a vowel next to this double letter square. Well, hang on, it doesn't go there. So gainings does put an I next to this double letter square. And it doesn't get doubled, so agonizing definitely better. Agonizing for 70. And I draw a horrible rack, but it's 7 random tiles, so not surprising. This X is pretty hot. Any parallel play in row C is going to score a lot and not give terribly much away. Now, I do have the Q. So I could play chin in column 8. However, I think a play of imply in that spot would be better. Since this rack is so non-bingo-y and clunky, it's not an absolute priority to burn the Q, because if I play just QI or QIN, the remaining tiles are super clunky. So if I can get rid of most of the remaining clunkiness, it's worth hanging on to the Q. Still, all 4 U's to come. I'm just wondering if any draw would give me a play through this E with the Q above the I, and I don't think there is a play which would work in that spot. Wow, nice bingo for opponent. And there goes the first blank. How does that change matters? I've still got imply. Let me see what that scores. That's 45, keeping chin pretty good, because in particular I'm keeping chi in the top left. However, opponent has provided an enormously good spot in the middle of column 1. What do I have there? Miney, 42 points. But this rack leave, nothing like as good as Chin. Well, I do trail. I think I will open the board up. Imply for 45. And I do draw a U. But I have the W with it, so there's no bingo here. And the play of Chi, top left, although it would score well, get rid of the Q, would leave U and W on my rack. So I'm wondering if there are any places for Quin or Quine. Well, there is, and it may be blocked, but I have Quine and AE. And I say it may be blocked because I'm expecting opponent to take out this triple word square in the middle of column 1. So, are there any other Q spots I haven't considered? From an E, I would have equine. I don't think I've got anything using this middle triple word square myself. Great, opponent goes there but doesn't score as much as he might, and in particular does not block my quine spot. So, quine for 50. Well, this is non-bingo-y but balanced and has scoring potential with the W and the Y, and I should be able to play off both of them. Towny and Naughty are both good. And look at this X spot remains available. The V only scores 0 points because it's a blank. The best I can do there is Vor, which retains the Y, but scores over 30 points. I don't have any way of scoring off the Q. Still 3 U's to come, so I think at some point we will see a column 1 QU play for 40 or 50 points. I trail by 14 points and opponent on turn. Not too many bingo lanes on this board. Scarved is good, and there are 3 S's and a blank to come. So that's row C, but that could easily be taken out with an X play. Column 12 for bingos ending S something, and in particular SE. Okay, 39 points, so opponent leads by 50. What about playing my W between this I and E? I don't think that works, and I was looking for a column 10 play which gets rid of W, T and Y. 13 minutes on my clock. So what about a play through the R of Torment, but that's a Freudian slip because what I do have is Tawny for 32, which plays off W, Y and T, which is what I was trying to do. It doesn't open the board up, but I think there are some bingo lanes on this board. There's the floating O of overfeed, for example, and there's also the scope for opening the board up by playing through the R of Tormentor onto this triple word square, providing 3 new floaters. Now, can I do better than Tawny? 1T is also good, but I don't think there's much difference between those. What about a play from the A, which gets the Y tripled? I thought for a moment I had anyway, but that would require both Ys. No, so this is 32 points. I could be missing something much better, but I haven't seen it. Not good. Not good at all. VU duplicate tiles. So pretty grim stuff. However, there are a lot of really nice tiles to come, and I trail by only 20. But what am I going to do with this? Well, in particular, do I have anything through the R of Tormentor? Not seeing anything. Well, I have Vrow, but that scores almost nothing and doesn't leave a fabulous rack leave. I'd be better off changing than doing that. I'd like to avoid changing, not just to avoid scoring 0 points, but also I'd quite like to open the board up if I can. I've got the out prefix. Not seeing anything with that. What about getting my V tripled? So I could play Volt. Wow, keeping IOTU, horrible. This may be worth changing. Opponent has created new bingo lanes. Here takes D, S, and T. I trail by 50. Is changing best onto an E. I would have out Vi. That would certainly sort the rack out. I can't see anything through this R, which gets tripled, and in any event that would interfere with the here hooks. Here also takes an E. I am changing, and I think I'll keep just the T for heart and for vowel consonant balance. Should I keep any vowels? Let me just check the remaining vowels. 13 out of 29, so it's a balanced bag. I'm going with this. Well, vowel heavy, and no floating consonants on the board, or very few. I would have sartorii through an R, but that doesn't end in an R. How about the L of imply? And look at this rack, I have no scoring tile, so that change, although this rack is a lot better than the one I changed, it's problematic. Opponent has created a new bingo lane, which is good. Now, is there really no bingo here? What about the Y? That doesn't feel promising, because the Y often acts as a vowel. No, so what to do here? My inclination is to play off O and I. Where can I do that to best effect? Certainly down here, it will attract opponent's attention. And he may score well or he may not, but he'll be leaving bingo lanes alone. Only 14 points. Can I do better? Now, let me just put this back. I think it's aortitis rather than aoritis. Yeah, because that's going to be inflammation of the aorta. So I'm just hesitating in case there is a bingo here. Would be such a shame to miss one, and would certainly be high probability. And I'm also hesitating because OI is setting up a good scoring spot. And if there's a way of scoring the same without doing that, I'd like to do so. OXO is good, but I do have to get rid of an I. No, I'm not seeing anywhere to play OI. Well, I could play it at the top left, and I think I will. Only 8 points. There's very little difference between 8 and 14. And opponent could just stick his J on this double letter square. Yeah, I'm going with this. Pretty grim. I play 2 vowels and I draw 2 vowels. And more significantly, I don't have a bingo with this rack. whenever you have 4 vowels, floating consonants really help, and there are precious few on this board. And opponent did have the J. So I'm not in good shape. I trail by over 100, so even a bingo is unlikely to be enough. I'm just wondering if there's a 7 with this rack. But it has not come to mind. So last turn I played off I and O. Now I would like to play off A and O. Where can I do that? And I'm looking around at the scoring tiles on the board. And I can see Aura for 5. This is a really strong rack cleave, so although it looks really lame playing off OA, for only 5 points, if I play off more, I'm massively hitting the rack cleave value. So the way to think of this play is not that it scores 5 points, but that it's worth 5 points plus the value of this rack cleave, which is well over 20 and could be over 30. And I'm just hesitating in case there's a way of scoring more than 5 points. But I'm not seeing it, so I'm going with this. Okay. What do I have here? If I do have a 7-letter bingo ending in S, there is column 14. But I'm not seeing one. This is slightly better in terms of vowels and consonants. I have drawn a consonant. 3 E's to come, but they're all eluding me. Diastral is good, but the L isn't really available for that. And again, no scoring tiles, so it's very hard to score 20 or 30 points. And what's happening is that I'm slipping further and further behind. I'm 100 points behind opponents on turn. And the remaining tiles, although looking slightly less bingo-y, definitely do contain a lot of bingo-y tiles. Now the Y is slightly more useful, given that I have fewer vowels. But I'm not seeing anything through that. So what to do here? Really tricky. Well, that's looking pretty ominous. I now trail by 170 points, and there are only 7 tiles in the bag, so if I have 2 back-to-back bingos now, I still don't win, so it is game over. But I think I will play off just 2 tiles to try and maximise my chances of bingoing. Da for 20. So I have Santiers and Strains. Not sure there's anywhere for either. And Instars, which also doesn't play. The I doesn't hook WE. I'm not seeing anything through the Y or through the L. I should mention that the bonus bonus game for Patreon subscribers, supporters of the channel, is now available on the Patreon site exclusively for subscribers. It's a very exciting 5-minute game, and there's a move in there which I'm particularly proud of and would have been proud of even if it had happened in a 20-minute game. So do check that out if you are a subscriber, and if not, please consider becoming one, because the subscribers keep this channel alive, and I'm hugely grateful for your support. Now, 3 tiles left. Opponent appears to be blocking, However, I didn't have a bingo. So with 3 tiles left, should I still be trying for a bingo? I think so. I think so. Now, is there any way of creating a new lane? No. So I think I'll play just Zars for 13. Keeping strain, which is pretty good. Supposing I draw the E, which is the most likely tile, then I would have Ansia in row B. So I'm going with this. Well, that's 13. Just wondering if there's anywhere greater. I could play Scarved and Vows, but then that would be blocking my bingo lane. I don't hit one of the E's. And I think I have Intazi, and I think that plays in column 12, making belts and oi. And I'm pausing because it may be just Intarzia or Intarzio. It's one of those words which I think may have been withdrawn at some point. Still 2 tiles in the bag, so opponent may be tempted to play off just the one. Opponent's player Yule has taken out the L as a bingo floater, but the Y is still available. However, that's not particularly good for this rack. Not good. Okay, so I can forget about that bingo. And I don't think there's another. Trains goes with almost every tile in the bag, apart from an I. And there are no floating vowels to play in Tarsia or in Tarsio. Opponent has 7 of these 9 tiles at the bottom. Now, opponent's play of Yule has prevented a 6-letter play from the A of key. Okay, so opponent has emptied the bag. So is Intarsio good? No, it's not. Gosh, it is just Intarsia, I think. Do I have a bingo ending in H? 4 minutes on my clock. No, I don't think so. So I have trains for 21. And I do have 2 outs for my I, should I need them. My and Psi and it. But is opponent going out with up? Well, he is. He's got up to in row B. And may well have other options. And the final score, 342 for me, 517 for my opponent, a winning margin of 175 points. So well done to my opponent. Let's see what I missed. What a grim game at the end. So opponent to go first, and he changes. And this is my rack. And I play fecal, and that looks fine. I guess the only alternative may have been to change just the F. But that's a difficult judgment to make, and fecal does get 28 points on the board. Now opponent plays Zell. And I played carved, and was also contemplating craved and graved. Probably not terribly much between those. Wow! Missed bingo. Rentable for opponent. Plays bell instead. And this was a problem rack. Now, X's and XE's. Thought about those. What did I do in the end? I played exec for 26. Hanging on to the S, and that really accounts for most of the difference in score between exec and the higher plays. And although the X of exec is underneath this double word square, I'm avoiding opening column 1, so I still like my play. Great bingo for opponent. And I'm able to come back with agonizing. Gaining's also good. And a gisting was available through the T of Torment, getting the G doubled, so that would have scored the most, but not terribly much between those. Now, great pick up for opponent, plays Torment and picks up the tiles for Overfeed. And now opponent has played 2 bingos and has an 80-point lead. My rack, and I play Imply for 45, nothing obviously better. Opponent plays Nook, and now I have Quine for 50. So this has all been fairly standard so far, and I trail by just 10, so very much felt in the game. Opponent plays Quai. Now L11. Well, Townie from the T of Torment, ending in Y, but keeping duplicate T and opening up access to column 15, so I'm not a fan of that. I think Tawny is a better play. Opponent's rack plays here, and this is where things really become quite grim and stay grim. I have an awful rack, and I just couldn't see what to do with it. There are a few nice bingo lanes on this board. The hooks for here, the floating O of Overfeed, the S for Scarved, there's column 12, but it's not a great board for non-bingo-y racks, and in particular there are very few floaters. So what could I have done here? Volti, yeah, keeping out, and I think this is where I change, but I think Volti would have been better. Out does have some small amount of synergy. And opponent has the blank and is in really good shape. Plays Vow for 33. And now I have an agonizing series of racks which are super bingo-y in terms of their makeup, but I just couldn't see a bingo. No missed bingo. And this is the problem here. These scores, barely scraping 20, trash the rack. And retaining double I and Val heavy does represent trashing, and certainly burning off 4 tiles, leaving only 3 is trashing. So it was tricky, and I think IO for 8 keeping Stare. I think Stare is 10 points better than IRS. I think IRS is good, probably worth 12 or 13. But Stare, I would say, is pushing 30, so definitely more than 10 points better. Now, no vowels for opponent. Plays Jig. And I play off 2 vowels and draw 2 vowels. Really frustrating. And again, no bingo here. And again, very little over 20. And most of the plays trash the rack. So I play Aura for 5. Again, keeping Stare. So is Stare 16 points better than ST? It's close. ST is good. Again, probably worth 12 or 13. And if Stare is worth about 30, then yes, it is. Now, this was the nail in the coffin. Great bingo find by opponent with ribbits. And this is my rack. No bingo. Slightly more points on offer here. Now, I've just done that. So I play Da for 20. So again, I'm getting 11 fewer points, but I think that's made up for in rack leave. I'm retaining the same rack leave, which I'm predicting is worth 30 points. Obviously, it may not be. But is Stare Da for 20? Is Stare 11 points better than RST? I would say yes, it is. RST must be worth, again, around 12 or 13, possibly slightly more. So I play Da. Opponent does now draw vowels. Plays Yule. And again, no bingo. So I7, ST. Yeah, and I think that is worth considering because it does score a lot and it leaves 1 in the bag. Instead, I play just Zars. Opponent plays Hooved. And now there's no bingo here. So throughout that entire run of bingo racks at the end, there just wasn't anything playable. I played Trains. and opponent goes out with up to. So, super frustrating game. I really felt that I was in the game, close to my opponent, until just after the halfway mark. Then my opponent pulled away with a great bingo of ribbits, and I have had a succession of super frustrating racks to deal with, very bingo-y, and I was playing off a small number of tiles to retain really good rack leaves, but the racks never matured into bingos. Just one of the things that can happen in Scrabble. Anyway, many thanks to my opponent for a good battle. I hope you enjoyed watching that game, and I will see you next time.